My fiancée said yes to my proposal but kept texting her ex behind my back. I confronted her and cancelled the wedding. I, 29M, proposed to my girlfriend, 27F, of 3 years, Sarah, last month at her favorite restaurant. Everything seemed perfect, she cried, said yes, and we spent the evening calling our families and friends to share the news. We've already started planning the wedding for next spring. At least, that was the plan until last week. Let me back up and give you the full story of how we got here. Sarah and I met through mutual friends at a birthday party. I was immediately drawn to her infectious laugh and the way she could make anyone feel like the most interesting person in the room. Our first date was actually a disaster. The restaurant lost our reservation, it started raining, and we ended up eating street tacos while sitting in my car. But somehow, that disaster turned into one of the best nights of my life. We talked for hours, and I knew there was something special about her. Some background: Sarah was in a 5-year relationship before me with a guy named Mike, 28M. They broke up about 6 months before we started dating. She always maintained they ended things amicably because they wanted different things in life. He wasn't ready to settle down, while she wanted marriage and kids. Over our 3 years together, she'd occasionally mention him, but never in a way that raised red flags. I even encouraged her to stay friendly with him, believing that mature adults can maintain respectful boundaries with exes. Our relationship progressed naturally. We moved in together after a year, adopted a cat named Milo, and started talking about our future. Sarah is a kindergarten teacher, and I work in software development. We complemented each other perfectly. She brought spontaneity and warmth to my sometimes overly structured life, while I helped ground her when she felt overwhelmed. We had our fights, like any couple, but we always worked through them together. The proposal took months to plan. I enlisted her best friend Jenny to help choose the ring, a vintage-style oval diamond with small sapphires on either side, inspired by a photo Sarah had once shown me from her grandmother's jewelry collection. I made reservations at Café Bellissimo, where we had our first real date after the taco night disaster. I arranged for our families to be waiting at our apartment afterward for a surprise celebration. Everything went exactly as planned. She gasped when I got down on one knee, tears streaming down her face as I told her how she made every day better just by being in it. The other diners applauded when she said yes. Her parents hugged me and called me son. My mom cried and gave Sarah our family's traditional wedding blessing. It was magical. The first 2 weeks were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Sarah dove in headfirst, creating Pinterest boards, researching venues, and discussing color schemes. We found a beautiful vineyard for the ceremony and even put down a deposit. She asked Jenny to be her maid of honor, and I asked my brother James to be my best man. We were thinking about a guest list of 150 people, with a string quartet for the ceremony and a live band for the reception. Then last Wednesday happened. I was using Sarah's iPad to look up some wedding venue photos we'd saved. We share devices, nothing sketchy there. A message notification popped up from Mike. I know I shouldn't have, but something in my gut made me open it. What I found made me physically sick. There were hundreds of messages between them going back to 2 weeks after I proposed. At first, it seemed innocent enough, him congratulating her on the engagement. But it quickly evolved into reminiscing about their relationship, with messages like "Remember that weekend in Cabo? And no one understood me like you did." The real kicker? Sarah was telling him she sometimes wonders if breaking up was the right choice and that she misses the passion they had. There were messages about how she feels safe and secure with me, but with him, she felt alive. She even sent him some old photos of them together, saying she was feeling nostalgic. Some of the messages were particularly gut-wrenching. Sarah: "Sometimes I wake up from dreams about our camping trips and feel so confused." Mike: "Those were the best times. Remember when we got caught in that thunderstorm and had to huddle in the tent for hours?" Sarah: "Stop, you're making me miss it too much. Tom's great, but he's not really the camping type." Mike: "You looked beautiful in that engagement photo you posted." Sarah: "Thanks. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if things had been different with us." Mike: "You know I think about that too. But I guess we'll never know." Sarah: "Maybe that's for the best. But I can't help wondering." I spent hours reading through their conversations. Yes, I know I'm torturing myself. While there wasn't any explicit sexting or plans to meet up, the emotional intimacy in their messages was devastating. They were texting almost daily, sometimes late at night when I was asleep right next to her. They had inside jokes I didn't understand, shared memories they reminisced about, and even discussed their current lives in detail. The worst part was seeing how she talked about our relationship to him. She told him how stable and sensible I am, but there was always this undertone of settling, like I was the safe choice rather than the passionate one. She even shared details about our wedding planning, asking his opinion about certain decisions as if his input mattered. I didn't confront her immediately. I needed time to process and gather my thoughts. I took screenshots of some key messages and spent the next few days in a daze, watching her go about our life together like everything was normal. She'd kiss me goodbye in the morning, text me sweet messages during the day, and discuss wedding plans in the evening, all while maintaining this secret emotional affair with her ex. During those days, I noticed things I'd been blind to before. How she always angled her phone away from me when texting. How she'd sometimes laugh at her phone but quickly stop when I asked what was funny. The times she'd step out onto our balcony for work calls that somehow always seemed to happen in the evening. Yesterday, I finally confronted her. I waited until after dinner, her favorite pasta that I cooked, ironically, and simply handed her my phone with the screenshots pulled up. The color drained from her face. Her first response? "You went through my private messages?" Classic deflection. When that didn't work, she broke down crying, saying it didn't mean anything and that she was just processing her feelings before the wedding. She swore she loves me and only me, that Mike is in the past, and the messages were just her way of getting closure. I asked her if she would have told me about these conversations if I hadn't discovered them. She couldn't answer. I asked her how she would feel if I was having similar conversations with my ex. More tears, no real answer. The part that kills me is that she's still wearing the engagement ring I spent months saving for while texting another man about their passionate past. Every time I look at her hand now, I feel like an idiot. Our conversation went in circles. Her, it wasn't what it looked like. We were just talking. Me, about how much you miss him and wonder about your life together. Her, those were just moments of nostalgia. It didn't mean anything. Me, if it didn't mean anything, why hide it from me? Her, because I knew you wouldn't understand. Me, what's not to understand about my fiancée having emotional late-night conversations with her ex? I packed a bag and I'm staying at my brother's place. I told her I need space to think. She's been calling and texting nonstop, saying she'll do anything to fix this. She offered to let me read all her messages, promised to block Mike everywhere, and suggested couples counseling. But how can I trust her again? How do I know she won't just get better at hiding things? We were planning to spend our lives together, and she couldn't even make it 3 weeks past the proposal without reaching out to her ex. The ring was $15,000, nearly all my savings. But it's not about the money. It's about what that ring represented, a promise of faithfulness, honesty, and a future together. She broke that promise before we even sent out save the dates. I think I know what I need to do, but I'm struggling to pull the trigger. The thought of canceling the venue deposits and telling everyone the wedding is off is overwhelming. Plus, I genuinely love her and imagine my future with her. But I don't know if I can get past this betrayal. My brother says I'm doing the right thing by taking space, but some friends think I'm overreacting since there was no physical cheating. Am I overreacting? Should I give her another chance? Update, today. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your perspectives and support helped me gain clarity during one of the hardest periods of my life. Here's what's happened since then. After spending a week at my brother's place, I agreed to meet Sarah at a neutral location, a coffee shop we'd never been to before. I needed to hear her out one last time before making my final decision. During that week, I barely slept. I kept rereading the messages, torturing myself with thoughts of their past together, and questioning everything about our relationship. She came prepared with a handwritten letter, 12 pages long, which she read to me through tears. She explained how she'd been scared of the commitment, even though she wanted it. How texting Mike felt like holding onto a safety net while stepping into the unknown with me. She swore she never wanted to get back with him, that it was just nostalgia and fear driving her actions. The letter went into detail about our relationship, every major moment, every time I'd supported her, every reason she loved me. She talked about how Mike represented her younger, more carefree self, and how she was struggling to let go of that version of herself as she stepped into the role of someone's wife. I listened patiently, but with each excuse, I felt more certain about my decision. When she finished, I asked her one question: if Mike had told you he wanted you back and was ready for marriage, would you have been tempted? Her hesitation before saying no told me everything I needed to know. She tried to backtrack, saying she only hesitated because the question surprised her, but I knew better. In that moment of hesitation, I saw our entire potential marriage, me always wondering, always checking her phone, always questioning if I was her second choice. I told her that while I believe she loves me in her way, she's not ready for marriage, at least not with me. The trust is broken, and I deserve someone who's all in, not someone who needs to keep their ex on the back burner just in case. She broke down completely, promising therapy, complete transparency, anything to save us. But I held firm. I told her I was canceling the wedding and ending our relationship. She grabbed my hand across the table, her engagement ring catching the light, and begged me to at least try couples counseling first. But I knew that would just be delaying the inevitable. The aftermath has been messy. Telling our families was hard. Her parents, who I've grown close to, were devastated. Her father, who had always treated me like a son, called me personally to ask if there was any way to work things out. He offered to pay for the best couples counselor in the city. Her mother sent me a heartbreaking email about how she'd already started working on a quilt for our wedding gift. They even offered to pay any cancellation fees if we'd reconsider and just postpone instead of cancel. My mom cried. She really loved Sarah. Our friends have been divided. Some, especially those who are married or engaged, completely understand my position. Others think I'm throwing away a good relationship over just texts. One friend even suggested that marriage jitters are normal and that Sarah's behavior was just a manifestation of pre-wedding anxiety. The wedding vendors have been surprisingly understanding. We're losing some deposits, but it's a small price to pay compared to the cost of a divorce later. The vineyard actually offered to transfer our deposit to a different date if we wanted to take some time to work things out. I thanked them but declined. I've asked Sarah to sell the ring and keep the money. I don't want anything from her anymore. Here's where it gets interesting. 2 days after our coffee shop conversation, Mike's girlfriend, yes, he has one, reached out to me through Facebook. Turns out, Sarah wasn't the only one hiding their conversations. The girlfriend, Rachel, found out about their texting too, and she and Mike are now also working through their own crisis. Sarah conveniently left out the fact that she was helping Mike cheat too. Rachel shared some screenshots from her side, and they made me realize I'd only seen half the story. There were messages about Mike and Sarah's special connection and how timing is everything. It was clear that both of them were indulging in a fantasy of what could have been, all while hurting their current partners. Sarah's been telling our mutual friends that I'm overreacting, that she never physically cheated, and that I'm throwing away 3 years over some harmless texts. Some friends think I'm being too harsh. But those who've seen the messages understand. The intimacy in those texts wasn't innocent, it was an emotional affair, plain and simple. The past month has been a roller coaster. Some days I wake up feeling confident in my decision, others I find myself reaching for my phone to text her good morning like I used to. I've had to block her on social media because seeing her posts about growing through difficult times and vague quotes about forgiveness were driving me crazy. It's been hard. I still love her, and there are moments when I question my decision. But then I remember how easily she lied to my face every day, how she could plan our wedding while secretly pining for another man, and I know I'm making the right choice. The hardest part has been the loneliness. Our apartment feels empty without her. I'm keeping it since it's in my name, but I've rearranged all the furniture and am slowly replacing things we bought together. Each change helps me reclaim the space as my own. I had to give Milo, our cat, to her since she was technically the one who adopted him. That was harder than giving up the ring. I've started therapy to work through this. My therapist pointed out that while the betrayal hurts, I should be proud of myself for recognizing my worth and standing firm in my decision. She's helping me understand that my feelings of anger and loss are valid, and that it's okay to mourn the future I thought I would have. Last week, I found Sarah's wedding planning notebook while cleaning out a drawer. Inside were sketches of her dream dress, lists of potential first dance songs, and notes about our honeymoon plans. We were going to go to Greece, something we'd been saving for since our first year together. Looking at those pages, I felt a deep sadness not for what I lost, but for what I thought I had. Sarah still texts occasionally, usually late at night, saying she misses me and made the biggest mistake of her life. Each message gets easier to ignore. I'm focusing on myself, hitting the gym, reconnecting with old friends, and planning a solo trip I've always wanted to take. I'm thinking about using the honeymoon savings to go backpacking through Southeast Asia, something I've always wanted to do but Sarah wasn't interested in. My brother James has been my rock through all of this. He's going through a divorce himself, his wife cheated with a coworker, and he keeps reminding me that it's better to find out now than years into a marriage with kids and shared property. He's right, but it still hurts. To those who asked in the original post if I was overreacting, no, I wasn't. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And to anyone going through something similar, you deserve someone who chooses you completely, not someone who keeps their options open. I don't hate Sarah. I hope she figures out what she really wants in life. But I know now that it isn't me, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones. Yesterday, I drove past Café Bellissimo for the first time since the proposal. I didn't feel the gut-wrenching pain I expected. Instead, I felt something like peace. I'm not okay yet, but I will be. Thank you for reading. This community helped me more than you know. Edit. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thank you for all the awards and supportive messages. To answer some common questions. 1. Yes, Mike's girlfriend Rachel and I have both switched to no contact with our exes. She's actually been a surprising source of support through this. 2. No, I'm not ready to date yet. Working on myself first. 3. For those asking about the ring, it was approximately 3 months' salary. Yes, it hurts to let it go, but I don't want that reminder in my life. 4. Several people have asked about Milo. Yes, it was heartbreaking to give him up, but Sarah was his primary caregiver and it felt wrong to separate them. I get photo updates occasionally. 5. To those suggesting I sell her texts to Mike's girlfriend or expose them publicly, no, I'm choosing to take the high road. Final update, 1 month later. Quick update since many have asked, life has a funny way of working out. Remember that solo trip to Southeast Asia I mentioned? I'm writing this from a cafe in Bangkok. Taking this trip was the best decision I could have made. 2 interesting developments. 1. Sarah and Mike are dating again. Found out through mutual friends that they got together just 3 weeks after our breakup. Rachel, Mike's ex, called to tell me. Honestly? I felt more relief than anger. It confirmed I made the right choice. 2. The vineyard where we were supposed to get married? They refunded our deposit in full after hearing our story. I used that money to extend my travel plans to include Vietnam and Cambodia. The most surprising part? I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. There's something freeing about having your worst relationship fears come true and surviving it. Sarah still tries to reach out occasionally, especially since she and Mike got together, trying to explain. I maintain no contact. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. To anyone going through something similar, it gets better. Trust yourself. No more updates after this. This chapter of my life is officially closed.